Hey guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome to another video. We are all just about coming to the end of our illnesses. Thank goodness Avery has stopped being sick, which is so nice. She's actually just having a nap at the moment, which is why I am being a little bit quiet. Today is Guy Fawkes bonfire night, so this evening we have some nice plans. We've bought some fireworks and some sparklers, and I think we're just gonna make some hot chocolates and go outside and enjoy some fireworks and let the kids play with the sparklers, which will be really nice. I love it when we can just do things as a family and we don't have to leave the house to do it, which is great. Hubby is currently in the garden making some kind of taupe awning type situation because it's raining at the moment. The forecast said it was meant to stop by this evening, but it's just not looking good. This video is probably going to be over a few days just because we're still trying to take it a little bit easy after Avery's hospital admission and her just recovering from this illness. And at some point in the video I'd actually really like to sit down and give you guys a bit of an kind of all over update on where Avery's at in terms of her cerebral palsy and her brain injury. If you are new to my channel, hi, I am Chrissy. I'm a mum of 3 and 2 of my 3 children have additional needs. My eldest son Zachary has autism and my daughter, who is 20 months, has cerebral palsy. So I just want to give you a bit of an update, basically a kind of 20-month round off on where she's at, how she's doing, what we have planned for the future in terms of her care and development and medications, things like that. Me, Josh and the kids are all in the process of making a guy for Guy Fawkes night. He needs a bit more stuffing and need to figure out what to do for a head. Good morning guys, it is the next day. Last night was so nice. The kids really enjoyed the fireworks. Avery loved the loud fireworks. Those seemed to be her favourite. She would smile at them. It was really nice. Just a nice way to spend an evening. We wouldn't normally do anything of an evening, so yeah, really enjoyed it. Now I am itching to get into Christmas mode, but before I do, there is one more autumnal thing that I did last year that I want to make a bit of a tradition, really. I want to do it every year, and that is to make a pumpkin pie. So I have some pumpkin puree here. Now we don't really get the canned pumpkin puree in the UK, not that I've seen anyway. So this is actually cooked and stored from the boys' Halloween pumpkin. I have my recipe written out in my Sweet Treats recipe book, my digital one that I sell on Etsy, and the recipe I actually use is from a YouTuber called Cupcake Gemma. I love her channel, I love her recipes. However, this one is going to be a little bit of a variation of it because number one, I don't have enough pumpkin. I've got about 40 grams less, and also things are hard this year. I'm a bit lazy, so I'm going to use ready-made pastry instead of making my own. I did make my own last year, but This year we are improvising. So I've got all of my ingredients here. The first thing I actually need to do is blind bake the pastry. So I've actually got the same rice that I used last year to blind bake the pastry last year, and this is fine. This is just cooked rice. It's the same as baking beans. You can keep it for as long as you want. It doesn't actually touch the food. It stays in the baking paper, and it just keeps the pastry from bunching up when it cooks, I suppose. While the pastry is blind baking in the oven, I am gonna crack on with the filling. And what I really like about this recipe is it doesn't take a whole load of mixing. So for cakes and frosting and things like that, I would get out my stand mixer, but for this I can do by hand. So pumpkin pie is in the fridge chilling. I like it best chilled because the filling goes more like a cheesecake consistency. And oh, it's so yummy, isn't it? I find it to be like a cross between a carrot cake and a cheesecake, like the taste of a carrot cake but the consistency of a cheesecake with a pie crust, if that makes sense. Oh, I can't wait to have a slice. Are you gonna have a taste? Are you gonna have a taste of pumpkin pie? Avery's not long woken up from a nap. Josh is downstairs playing on the Xbox. So if you hear some questionable shouting, then that is probably what that is. The boys are in their room playing. So I wanted to sit down and give you guys a bit of a bigger picture update on where Avery's at. So for reference, if you're new to my channel, Avery is 20 months old. Actually, she is 20 months old today. Happy 20-month birthday, Pudding. And she has severe HIE, which is a hypoxic brain injury caused by a 40-minute cardiac arrest when she was 3 days old. So following from that, she also has... Yes. Following from that, she also has evolving cerebral palsy and also a condition called dystonia, which is a movement disorder that causes her to make uncontrollable movements and spasms. She is also G-tube fed and she has severe reflux. So that is kind of the basic picture of Avery's conditions, I suppose. And I wanted to do this because I know I did a video right at the start of my channel kind of explaining all of Avery's conditions, but I thought it would be good to do kind of updates as she grows. Number one, for myself to look back on and see where she was at and how far she's come when I do the next one. But also, I know that when Avery got her diagnosis and when she's small, and even now, I like to see different stories of different children at different stages of their development. Not that I think it's ever a good idea to compare children, because no two children are the same, no two brain injuries are the same, and children just develop at different rates, even if they don't have a brain injury. But for me, I just like to get as much information and as much of an idea of all the possible scenarios, basically. So hopefully this might be helpful to some of you. I know that a lot of you are just generally interested in Avery and how she's doing. We have had a lot of appointments over the last couple of months, including the long-awaited neurology appointment. And if you follow my channel, you know that we've been waiting for that appointment for quite some time. And that is a very important appointment because obviously a lot of Avery's conditions come from her brain. So neurology is very important, isn't it? So physically, in terms of Avery's physical development, like I said, she's 20 months old. She can't yet walk. She can't yet really bear much weight onto her legs unless her dystonia pushes her into a stretch. She is not yet sitting unaided. We are still working on that, aren't we? She can lift her head at times with things like tummy time, but she does tend to flop her head forward and back, which you will probably see at least a couple of times within this segment of the video. A lot of the kind of stunting in progress when it comes to Avery's development is the dystonia. It's the movements that kind of stop her from being able to move forward with things, which I will get onto in just a little bit. In terms of eating and talking, she is making a lot of noises, especially over the last few months they have developed. It really feels as though she's interacting with us in her own way. She definitely tells us when she's not happy. She smiles a lot, don't you? And she smiles at interaction now too, which is really nice. And she also gives us some nice laughs every now and again too. In terms of eating, like I said, she is still 100% G-tube fed, and to be honest, there's so much I could tell you about her feeding journey that I will probably just save that for another video of its own. So our biggest concerns in terms of Avery and her bigger picture at the moment are her tone, her dystonia, and the recurring illnesses. So in terms of the tone, Avery has a mixture of spastic cerebral palsy and dystonia. Spastic is a not very nice word in my opinion to describe high tone basically. So her muscles in her arms mostly, her legs aren't so much affected, but her arms especially are very, very tight. So even when she's asleep, if you try to lift her arm, I mean that's as much give as she will get. To push her arms further up, it needs to be quite a stretch, and she does like the stretch, but it is very, very tight. So the plan in terms of tone management, she is on baclofen. She's on a moderate dose at the moment, but we still have scope to push that up, which is the plan. We're gonna bring up the baclofen and see if that helps reduce some of her tone. And she also has had a referral made for Botox injections, or to discuss Botox injections. And if you don't have my kind of lifestyle, if you're not a special needs family, then you might think that Botox is a bit excessive, especially for a baby. I thought the same thing when I first heard about Botox injections being used in children with cerebral palsy, but there has been a lot of success because it is targeted, which means that it's only the muscles that are affected by the high tone that are going to have the tone lessened, whereas with medications like baclofen, you can't really pick and choose where that tone is going to get weaker basically. And Avery does have weak tone in her trunk and neck, which is why she's not brilliant at holding her neck up, and it's one of the reasons why she can't sit. She's not very good with balance and coordination in terms of her core, but that is because she has lower tone there, and the baclofen could potentially make that worse, but we're still in the process of weighing up the pros and cons and seeing if it gives us as much of a benefit to justify the weaker tone in the core. In terms of the recurring illnesses, and I'll give you a bit of a backstory here, Avery has basically had back-to-back bacterial or viral infections for the last year, and when I say back-to-back, she gets a few days between illnesses, and for so long the doctors were telling us that that was completely normal. An infection once a month is normal in a baby of Avery's age, but I just can't accept that because she doesn't get a break. So we have spoken to numerous doctors and we've come up with a little bit of a plan in what we can do to try and prevent some of these illnesses or stop them from getting too bad, because when Avery gets poorly, even if it's with something minor like a cold, she runs the risk of aspiration pneumonia, which is a nasty chest infection caused by swallowing secretions, but then they go down to her lungs. And also, most recently, if you follow my channel, you'll know she had RSV, which is a respiratory virus, and for most people it causes cold symptoms. For Avery, it landed her in hospital for 2 days because she needed oxygen. So illnesses aren't taken lightly in this household. They can be very worrying. So the steps we're taking, she has recently been prescribed a prophylactic antibiotic, which she's going to be taking 3 times a week through the winter, just to try and keep some of the infections at bay. We have also changed her feed, and if you follow my channel and you followed my blended diet journey, you'll know just how heartbreaking that is for me. We've gone back to her G-tube feed because me and my husband were kind of bouncing some ideas off each other, and I thought, when she vomits, which she does when she's ill, she vomits a lot. If the blends are thicker coming back up, which it stands to reason they might be, is there a possibility that maybe she's not managing that vomit as well, and that could be why she is getting the aspiration pneumonia? It's a theory, but because it's a possibility, then it's worth going back to the G-tube feed and see if we can avoid the aspiration pneumonia, because as much as it breaks my heart, we have to do what's best for her. And do you know, I don't know if she really knew the difference between the 2 feeds. At the end of the day, fed is best. She still gets a full tummy, she still gets all the nutrition she needs. I think it is worse for me than it is for her, but that is the plan in terms of her feed. We are also very strongly considering a J-tube, which is kind of like the G-tube in the sense that she will be fed via a tube, except the end of that tube doesn't go into her stomach, it goes into her jejunum, which is the start of the small intestine, and that could potentially eliminate a lot of the risk for vomiting at all, because she won't have a full tummy to vomit. It does mean that she would need to go onto a continuous feed, which isn't nice, but I know that we can do a lot of it overnight, which means she wouldn't have to be attached to a tube all day long, because I think that was our biggest fear. That is something we're considering at the moment, and it may come into fruition very soon, especially if the doctors think that Avery could benefit from it. The next thing that is in the works is Avery's community paediatrician has recommended making an admissions checklist for her. So basically, whenever she goes into PEDOBS, which is the admissions unit in our local children's ward, they would have something on her file to say, she's in hospital, these are the things you need to test for. So that is maybe bloods, maybe urine, maybe checking her chest, all the things that are likely to be wrong or likely to be making Avery poorly, because usually they kind of just play it by what you tell them. But if Avery has this checklist kind of set in stone, we know that those things are going to be checked every time just to rule things out. And the community paediatrician said this is something that she is considering doing for all of her children that have complex medical needs, because it makes those admissions a little bit smoother. She has also been referred to gastroenterology to see if there is something more going on with her stomach than we think, because a lot of the issues we have come through stomach issues, so vomiting, reflux. She acts like she's in pain sometimes, that could potentially be coming from her stomach. It's just worth getting checked out. And then also she is going to be having a blood test to check for her vitamin levels, her iron levels, and then also we've asked for an extra test to check her basic immunity and see if there is anything going on there, and see if there is another reason underlying that is causing her to get ill so frequently. So those things are all in the works. We already have the appointment for gastro. She is also going to be having a pelvic x-ray soon as well, just to check the development of her hips, because she's not bearing weight onto her legs, which means her hips may not develop properly. So because she is now 20 months, we need to be keeping an eye on her hips, see how they're getting on, because she is at risk of hip dysplasia, which basically just means that her hips won't form in the way they should form, and they usually form properly naturally by babies bearing weight through their legs into their hips, which Avery doesn't do. And we are still waiting for her stander. It is still on back order, so as soon as we have that, we can get to work on trying to get her hips developing properly. But until then, we just have to wait, which is very frustrating, but it is what it is. Now, in terms of her dystonia, which is probably the worst thing, it's probably the condition that causes the most problems, it's the condition that causes Avery the most pain. And we thought that a lot of our concerns with Avery's sort of movements and tone were tone. We thought that a lot of the problems were through her high tone, but turns out a lot of what we thought was tone is actually the dystonia. It's the involuntary movements, which kind of makes it worse in a way, because I feel like dystonia is much more difficult to manage than tone. We had a neurology appointment recently. It was actually last Friday, and I'm not gonna lie, my husband and I came out of that appointment feeling very sad, very defeated, because he basically said to us, I'm sorry, I know this isn't what you want to hear, but we are never really going to be able to fully get rid of her dystonia. It's never going to go away. It is always going to be an issue. And like I said earlier, her dystonia plays a massive part in the hindrance of her development, which means the fact that she has dystonia could be the reason why she doesn't develop as well as she could, which is really, really sad. Now, we do have a pathway set out for us, I suppose. We had a really good discussion with the neurologist, and we kind of know where we're at and where the steps are that we need to take moving forward. So at the moment for dystonia, Avery is on gabapentin, and to be honest, the gabapentin hasn't done a whole lot for her movements, but yet we have still gone up slightly on the dose. She is now on 5 ml 3 times a day. We are also, like I said, going to be increasing her baclofen a little bit. Now, baclofen's not so much for dystonia. It has been known to help dystonia, but it is more for the tone. We have also tried trihexyphenidyl, which I can't tell you if it would have worked, because the side effects were we just couldn't deal with the side effects. Avery was getting night sweats, she wasn't sleeping, and in my opinion, if the side effects of a medicine outweigh the benefits, then it's really not worth putting it into their body. So obviously what we're doing so far isn't really making a whole lot of difference. So the plan moving forward, and the next medicine we're going to try is levodopa. I'm not going to pretend to know a whole lot about any of these medications that I'm mentioning, because I'm not a doctor, I'm not trained medically in any way, but from what I've read, I think levodopa has an effect on the dopamine in the brain, which is kind of suggested in the name of the drug. Now, the reason the neurologist wants to try levodopa first is because even though we need to wean her onto it, we won't need to wean her off it if we find it doesn't work. So we're going to try it for a few months. If we find it's not making a difference after 2 or 3 months, then we can just stop it and move on to the next. The next being clonidine. And clonidine, he said, has been effective in some children. However, when she starts it and whenever she has a bump in her dose, so whenever we up the dose a little bit, because obviously we will have to wean her onto it, we will have to have our community nurse around within the hour of that dose to check her heart rate and her blood pressure, because it has been linked to dropping blood pressure and dropping heart rate to an unsafe level. So that is something that we need to arrange and make sure it's all in place before we even give her the medicine. So that's a bit of a scary thought, but he did say it doesn't always happen, it is just a slight risk, which is why they need to be safe. If the clonidine doesn't work, and now we're talking options that are more years down the line, so this pathway is likely going to see us over the next few years, not just the now. If the clonidine doesn't work, then the next option is a baclofen pump, which me and my husband are very skeptical about. We know that if it will work, or if it's likely to work, we will have to try it for Avery's sake, but the idea doesn't sit right with us, and you'll realise why when I tell you what it is. So it is basically a pump that will be inserted into her stomach. So a surgery is involved in that, and the pump will sit just beneath the surface of her skin. So he said you will be able to see the pump sticking out from under her skin, but you won't actually be able to see it on top of the surface. You won't see the pump, it's all inside. And then from the pump, there is basically a spinal tap, which will do a slow release of baclofen into her spine. He has said that he has seen it be very, very effective in a lot of children, which is the reason why he uses this method. But as you can probably tell, why the idea is just a bit it's not a very nice idea. He did say that what he would do is a procedure where some baclofen would go into her spine without putting the pump in before they would actually do the surgery, just to make sure she did actually respond well to it, because there's no point in doing that surgery, going through all of that, and then her not actually respond well to the method. And the pump itself holds 20 ml of baclofen, which also means we would be to and from the hospital in Bristol every few months. He said it can be anywhere from 8 weeks to 6 months to get that refilled, and the pump itself has a battery life of 8 years, so it would be another surgery every 8 years. Now, this is something I think we would definitely do if we knew it worked. She does need to be a fair bit bigger for this option, which is why I say it is years down the line, because she doesn't grow very quickly. Now, if the baclofen pump doesn't work, the next option, and I feel like it is the final thing that the neurologist would try, it would be a last resort, is deep brain stimulation. And again, I don't know a whole lot about it. I've not even brought myself into researching into it yet, because it is years and years down the line. But it's neurosurgery. It's to do with probes in the brain, I think. Again, like I said, I don't know a whole lot about it, but that is our final option. So yeah, there is a clear pathway there. We don't know what will and won't work. It is just a wait and see game. In the meantime, Avery is going to be referred to the neurologist complex movement disorder clinic. What is the matter? What is the matter? Yeah, she's going to be referred to the complex movement disorder clinic, which is where we will go to the hospital in Bristol, which, by the way, is about a 3-hour drive from here. And she will see their physios in the morning. They'll get some videos, a good baseline. They're kind of more trained in the neurology side of things, and then she will also see the neurologist on the same day. He did say you may think it's kind of pointless, it's just physio and neuro, which you can get where we live, but he said he does get a better idea of how they're doing in terms of their physical development, because they get to see the physios at the same time. Right, I am going to go and take her down to her daddy, because she is just not happy. You're just not happy, are you? You're just not happy. Is it because I'm not talking to you? Eh? Oh, you better know I'm talking to you. Oi. You. Is that better? Is that better? You're smiling now. She's smiling now, guys. You're smiling now. It's because you're not getting the attention. Okay, she is happier now that she is downstairs with Frozen, of course. I think that's just about everything. The only things that I didn't really mention are, I didn't really talk about her reflux. She's on omeprazole. She's on the highest dose she could be. That hasn't really helped. I'm not gonna lie. The J-tube again will help with the reflux, but that is still something that we're considering. And the possibility of cerebral visual impairment, which I have gone into much more depth in another video that I will link below. She is getting a pair of glasses. We do know that Avery has stigmatisms in both eyes, and she's also short-sighted in her right eye. So she is getting a pair of glasses. Actually, tomorrow we're going to go and try the frames on her, and then they'll be sent off for the lenses. And then she'll have glasses, so pretty soon you guys will see what she looks like in glasses. But that is just an overall picture on where Avery is at in terms of her brain injury and her development. So I hope that you guys enjoyed, and I hope you enjoyed the video. I think I'm gonna go and tuck into some pumpkin pie now. I know the boys are itching to taste it as well. So give this video a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button. It really helps to support us. And with that said, I will see you guys in a few days with another video. Bye.